All right, let's dive into a topic that, honestly, hits close to home for every single community out there: vendor management. We're going to talk about how to get amazing quality work done without totally blowing your budget. Because, let's face it, the goal isn't just to find the cheapest option, it's about getting the absolute best value.
It doesn't matter if you're in a small condo building or a huge, sprawling neighborhood. Every single community relies on vendors for, well, pretty much everything. From keeping the grass green to fixing the roof, these are the pros who keep your community running and looking good. And the thing is, the stakes here are really, really high. When you pick a great vendor, you get consistency, you get reliability, and you get a well-maintained community. But if you pick the wrong one, oh boy, you're looking at project delays, budgets getting completely blown out of the water, and a nonstop headache of complaints from residents.
So that brings us to what is easily the single biggest mistake that volunteer boards make over and over again, and that is falling right into the low price trap. You know that instinct. You see 3 bids and you just immediately point to the lowest number, thinking you're saving money. But often, it's the exact opposite of a good financial decision.
And this really gets to the heart of it. Value is just not the same thing as price. It sounds simple, right? But internalizing this idea is the key to smart vendor management. That cheapest option on paper, it almost always comes with a bunch of hidden costs that you don't see coming until it's way too late.
So what do these hidden costs actually look like? Well, think about it. If a bid is way lower than everyone else's, that vendor is probably cutting corners somewhere. Maybe they're using cheaper materials that are just going to fall apart in a few years. Or they've hired an inexperienced crew that's going to do a sloppy job. Or, and this is the really scary one, they might not have the proper licensing and insurance, which puts your entire community at massive risk. And this right here, this is the classic downward spiral. It all starts with what feels like a smart choice, picking that lowest bid. But then, pretty quickly, you're dealing with shoddy work, so you're constantly calling them back for repairs. And then, eventually, you have to face the music and hire a second, reputable vendor to come in and fix the mess the first one made. You literally end up paying twice for one job. So much for saving money, right?
Okay, so enough doom and gloom. Let's talk about the solution. How do you actually avoid this trap and start making choices based on real long-term value? It takes a totally different way of looking at things. So let's break down what that framework actually looks like. This is the big question, isn't it? How do you actually find that real value? It's not about just hunting for the lowest price tag. It's about having a solid, methodical process to vet your options and find a true partner for your community. So here's a super practical 5-step guide. First, compare the scope of work, not just the final price. Make sure every single bid is for the exact same materials and services. You gotta compare apples to apples. Second, and listen, this one is non-negotiable. You have to verify their license and insurance. Third, please actually call their references. And don't just ask, were you happy? Ask the tough questions like, how did they handle a problem when something went wrong? Or did the final bill match the quote? Fourth, just assess their professionalism. Were they responsive? Were they clear communicators? And finally, think long-term. Is this a company you can see yourself working with again? I just have to pause on this one for a second because it is that important. Verifying insurance protects your community from huge liability. I mean, think about it. If an uninsured worker gets hurt on your property, your association could be on the hook for that. This is the one step you absolutely, positively can never, ever skip. Awesome! So you've done all the hard work, you've vetted your options, and you've hired a quality vendor. Your job is done, right? Not quite. In fact, the work is really just beginning. The success of the project now really depends on how you manage it from here on out.
Look, effective management really just boils down to a few key things. Start with crystal clear expectations and get them in writing in a contract. That right there will prevent so many misunderstandings later. Then you have to actually monitor their work. Don't just sit back and wait for something to go wrong. And when you do see an issue, address it right away, while it's still a small problem. And lastly, keep records. Document your communications and the work they do. This isn't about being suspicious, it's just about being professional. It protects everybody involved.
At the end of the day, what you're trying to build here is a strong professional relationship. And just like any good relationship, it's built on 3 pillars. Clarity, so everybody's on the same page. Accountability, so you know the job's getting done right. And consistency, which is the sign of a real pro.
So you might be thinking, wow, that sounds like a lot of work. And you're right, it is. But why should you go through all this effort? Because the long-term payoff is massive. It fundamentally changes how your community operates for the better, it saves you a ton of money over time, and it protects your property values.
So this is really the choice that every board faces. You can go for what's cheapest, which almost always means you're focused on the short term and you're going to get hit with hidden costs and have to redo the work later. Or you can choose what's cost-effective. That means you're focused on long-term value, it delivers reliability and quality work that actually lasts, which ends up saving you way more money and headaches in the long run.
So, I'll leave you with this one last really important question for you and your board to think about. The next time you're looking at a set of bids, don't just ask who has the lowest price. Instead, ask yourselves this: what is the true cost of our community's cheapest vendor?